Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Why, hello there, and welcome to the program. Sounded like I said, welcome to the pogrom. Jeez. It'd be the 11th, I think, of June, and it is a Tuesday. My sister is not able to join us today, but excuse me while I try to get my email up and running. So yesterday, I think I spent a lot of time talking about the big story and the NSA stuff and Mr. Snowden. And I let you know that at this point, I don't think I'm much of a fan of his. And I was surprised at the lack of pushback from you, frankly. However, as I start to see some stuff on the on my email, which I just got up, and also looking at what Daily News Nuggets has put out today, I don't think I am particularly alone on this. But if you don't agree with what I was talking about yesterday, and that is that I don't think this guy is a hero. Okay, here's one that's against me. Thank you, or disagrees. And I haven't read this before, but I see that this is somebody who's upset. I was moved to write after listening to yesterday's program. I was surprised by your attitude regarding the revealed PRISM program. You repeatedly justified the program by suggesting that other countries with access to similar technologies would not hesitate to use them. Throughout the Cold War, we had the technology to phone tap or bug our own citizenry, but unlike the Soviet Union or Eastern Germany, we went to great pains to define and limit the use of that technology. Those limits of power were the difference between paranoid police states and an open society full of creative innovation. Edward Snowden may be young and cavalier about the full consequences of his actions, but he is not Bradley Manning. I agree with that. He definitely has. He was more careful about what he leaked. He did you could tell there was a conscientiousness there that one certainly didn't see in Bradley Manning. Edward Snowden may be young cavalier, but he is not Bradley Manning, the WikiLeaks soldier, blindly dumping top-secret documents. He reacted to a specific program, hidden from the public, that does not pass the constitutional smell test, and he brought it to light. He did not hide behind a Guy Fawkes mask. He took responsibility, even if, as you suspect, his motives were mixed. The technology exists, and as you said, it will get used. But we cannot have the conversation about the balance between privacy and security if we are not informed of the scope of our nation's surveillance. And I'd like to ask, what is the purpose of hiding the program? What is a stronger deterrent to terrorists plotting an attack? Clandestinely rounding them up without public charges or trials? Killing them as faceless numbers with drones? Or making it plain that we are technologically capable of preventing attacks? To borrow a friend's analogy, is the policeman's gun more or less effective because you know he has it? Thank you for your time and your wonderful program. Well, thank you, Andrew, for a wonderful email. And I do appreciate it. And it raises all the kinds of questions that, yes, we need to start asking ourselves, without a doubt. Before I get into, and I don't know that I'm even capable of answering all your questions, because I don't know if I have enough information to. I mean, we're all sort of sifting, doing metadata gathering of our own right now, right? Sifting through all the information that is out there and trying to come to terms with with it, what the intent of our government is, if you trust the intent of your government. And here is another issue that was brought up actually today in a column by David Brooks, who usually drives me mad, but he brings up an interesting issue. And it's one that I have talked about for years here and there, and that is the continuing erosion in our society of any respect and or trust of our institutions. And this is something that has, I think, terrible potential for our nation. Because, and Brooks was pretty eloquent on this today, you can't have a nation if there is not some trust of its institutions. And here again, I will lay most of the blame at the feet of the Republicans, and starting with Ronald Reagan, for a 40-year campaign to make Americans distrust their government. Skepticism of our government is a wise position for any person to hold. But cynicism is the beginning of the end. Now, you could argue that a lot of what our government has done would make anybody a cynic. But then let's deal with the reality that once we all become cynics, once we look at the executive branch, the legislative branch, the judiciary as all a bunch of corrupted crooks in the thrall of special interests, which on occasion I do. But once that's the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week gut reaction that we would have as citizens, then I ask you, how do we have a country? And then why is there not a revolution? So I also want to say this, because I just realized, I think I took a left turn somewhere there, and I'm not sure how to find my way back. I normally wouldn't do this. I am going to plead a little bit of a head not working as well as it should, because I have been struggling with a little bit of a health issue for the last few weeks, and I'm taking a pill which makes me, I think, dumb. It's either that or not be here. So I'm a little, I am. We're trying to get to the bottom of it. Now, right before the show started, I was looking at a piece that was sent on that marvelous blog, Daily News Nuggets, put out by our history professor at CMU. And this comes from the Daily Banter. And I must say, I don't know much about this. It says this, and there's so much noise right now about this issue. There's the noise coming from the politicians who want to, in some way, make hay. There is the noise coming from people on the far right and the far left who are genuinely appalled at these programs. There are the explanations coming from government. All of this has to be processed individually, I suppose, in each of our heads. And that's what I've been trying to do. That's, I'm sure, what you all have been trying to do. And it is clear that this national discussion that we now seem to agree we need to have on this issue of government surveillance is a very difficult one to have. The reason being, much of what makes this kind of surveillance effective is that it is secretive. So if you believe that our government cannot do things secretly, then you really, I think, do hamstring a government, without a doubt, without a doubt. If, however, you do not trust your government, then you got a problem, right? I don't know what to tell you. Can I share this with you and do it with me? Because I had just started reading it. It looked interesting, looked like information I didn't know. And stay with me on it as we do it together. Turns out, according to the author here, Bob Seska, that the NSA PRISM story isn't quite the bombshell that everyone said it was. Yes, there continues to be a serious cause for concern when it comes to government spying and overreach with its counterterrorism efforts. But the reporting from Glenn Greenwald, that's with The Guardian, and the Washington Post has been shoddy and misleading. Let's see what this guy says. We shouldn't shrug off our weakened privacy as merely a side effect of the digital age, which you could argue I did yesterday. My contention is, hey, this ability exists now because of technology. And if you think for a minute that our government and every other government in the world is not going to be making use of it, you're nuts. And that the genie's out of the bottle, Pandora's box has been opened, and there ain't no putting it back in. And in fact, what appears to be outrageous, that they can do this today, will look like child's play in 2 years, or maybe even next year, as the technology continues to change. Anyone who thinks that technology is not going to run roughshod over humanity is out of their minds. I've been saying that for decades. Okay, sorry. This guy says, though, we shouldn't shrug off our weakened privacy as merely a side effect of the digital age. We ought to fight to preserve as much of our personal information as possible. So if there's any benefit to this news, it is to serve as a reminder that, yes, the government is serious about attaining information in its war on terror that we clamor for them to have, and that we should be aware of what's going on, and we should be checking it when we think it gets out of control. But, this guy says, with new contravening information emerging since the original stories were posted by The Guardian and The Washington Post, it is clear that the reporting by both of those news outlets was filled with possibly agenda-driven speculation and key inaccuracies. Glenn Greenwald told CNN, "It is well past time that we have a debate about whether that's the kind of country and world in which we want to live." This guy says canonizing bad reporting as a means of inciting a debate is as bad as no debate at all. Attachment to empirical reality must remain a central trait of the left. Otherwise, the progressive movement is no better than the non-reality-based propagandists on the right who will say and do anything to further their conservative agenda. So perhaps some positive changes on domestic spying are eventually achieved, but at what cost? Greenwald, who doesn't really care about left and right, isn't concerned with anything other than his personal agenda, and clearly he's willing to do whatever it takes in pursuit of those goals. Specifics presently, okay, this is too complicated. This is too complicated for me to read to you, and it's too long, and I'm sorry I started it. excuse me. I need to hear more from you guys, and I'm especially appreciative of the this wonderful email by Andrew. I don't pretend to have answers. Here's one. You are not alone in your opinion of Edward Snowden. Oh, yeah, I heard Jeffrey Toobin went nuts on him. And I don't think of Jeffrey Toobin as some idiot or lunatic or right-winger. He's a constitutional scholar is what he is. And this emailer also says, and there is a flap between the Washington Post's reporter and Glenn Greenwald. And that is that apparently Snowden went to the Post, but insisted that they print certain things in certain ways, and he wanted control. And the Washington Post thought some of what he was intending to leak and some of what he had, in fact, leaked to them, they thought, in their opinion, should not see the light of day, that it probably was injurious to national security. Greenwald didn't have any such problems. So apparently a lot of people think Greenwald has some kind of a personal agenda going here that's getting in his way to be truly analytical, that there's too much emotion with him, that he really can't stand Barack Obama. By the way, that is true, too, of the leaker, Snowden, who we know gave money to Rand Paul or the dad's campaigns, and says he is a libertarian. I love it when libertarians go to work for the government and in a way that is exactly what a libertarian, the kind of job a libertarian would find appalling. I mean, stop and think about that. Snowden says he's a libertarian, and yet he made his living as a government employee being a snoop. It's an odd way for a libertarian to butter his bread. So this guy goes on to say, Greenwald's been after everybody. He hates Obama. He hates Rachel Maddow. He hates anybody who doesn't agree with him. And he thinks real liberals would actually vote for Ron Paul. So Greenwald's a piece of work in many respects. And you gotta, I don't know. This is a really great opportunity to test all of our critical thinking apparatuses, I would think. So I will wait for other indications from you of your feelings. I want to share with you a few other things on this story, and then I'm going to move on to some other things if I don't hear more from you. Interestingly, I was shocked by this. You know, I love letters to the editor, and I especially love them in the New York Times because, well, excuse me, I'm an elitist, I suppose, but it seems to me that the letters to the editor of the Times seem to be, well, better thought out. And I also figure that a lot of people reading the New York Times probably share my politics. The New York Times editorially has been really vicious, I think, toward Obama and toward this kind of surveillance activity. Interestingly, every single letter which they print today about this is not supportive of the Times editorials. And I would argue that almost every one of these letter writers sound a lot like me, which is always gratifying, of course. The fact that the Times printed unanimously letters that seem to suggest that this is not the horrendous scandal, nor is Snowden the great hero that some would have him be, is impressive to me, because it means they must not have had a really good letter on the other side that would have buttressed their own editorial opinion. Anyway, here's just little snippets from these letters. From Paul Rooney of New Jersey: Snowden's actions have thwarted the will of the people, as expressed at the ballot box. What gives him and the other so-called whistleblowers that right? This is heroism? More like a palace coup carried out with a laptop. And he goes on to say, hey, look, the American people elect representatives. These representatives in Congress signed off on the enabling program that resulted in this, which we now are all saying, I'm shocked. As has been said before, there is no indication whatsoever that there is anything illegal about this program. In fact, our Congress just signed off on a re-up of it. You know, and a lot of the people in Congress now who are acting so, well, never, and other folks as well, I find it akin to the scene in Casablanca where the chief of police, played by Claude Rains, says to Humphrey Bogart's character, Rick, when he needs to close down Rick's nightclub, he does it because he has discovered gambling going on. Well, the chief of police himself is a regular at the gambling tables, but he says to Rick, when Rick says, how can you shut me down? He says, I'm shocked to discover gambling going on here. Okay, so it's the same kind of a thing. Come on. Get real. Samuel Reifler of Rhinebeck, New York, wrote, far more shocking than Snowden's revelations about government snooping, which most of us assumed was going on, to some degree, is the fact that someone with a disgruntled disposition, like he has, passed the vetting for a job that involved access to top-secret CIA documents. That thought has crossed my head, too. What I want to know is who's hiring, who, and this, again, is because of the privatization. What they hire is Booz Allen, a private contractor. Booz Allen provides the staffing. And I can't believe that this guy had the proper temperament. He took an oath. He betrayed the oath. Caller, go ahead.
Good morning, Lynn. It's Dave from Washington.
Hi.
I agree with you 10,000%. To answer your question, why do they hire people like him? They're hiring all these young kids because of their computer skills.
Right, exactly.
And that's why people like you and me don't get these jobs, because we can't do email. I was in the Navy long time ago, peacetime Navy, 70s, early 80s, and I had a top-secret security clearance. And my security was all based on the technology that we were using, and a couple other little things. 30 years later, I'm sure everything that I knew is now declassified and free to the world, but I still keep my mouth shut about all that stuff. And some of it was pretty neat. I mean, sitting around with my friends, talking in a bar, I can really tell them some really cool stuff.
You could impress some people, couldn't you?
Yeah. But I don't, because when I was 19 years old, I took a vow to keep my mouth shut for the rest of my life about stuff that nowadays is probably widely known. And so when I hear about Manning, when I hear about this Snowden guy, Manning, he's just a fool. I mean, that kid he had absolutely no idea what he was taking. He just was an opportunist. But the Snowden guy, if he thinks China is going to protect him, he's out of his mind. This guy's going to rot in a cell for the rest of his life right next to Manning. Hopefully they can compare information.
Well, here's the other funny thing. So a guy Snowden, who is appalled at the government's intrusion into our basic liberties and consequently releases this information to his fellow Americans, then runs and hides under the skirts of the Chinese? Yeah. I mean, excuse me?
Yeah, like the Chinese. First off, they're going to tie him down. They're going to suck every little thing out of his brain so they know everything that he knows. And they're worse than we are.
Yes. So, I mean, it just it don't make any sense. So, thank you. And thank you for keeping your secret.
Oh, I know some really cool stuff, but I can't tell anybody.
Okay, no, don't tell us.
All right, thanks.
Okay, bye. Here's one from Anne Bernays, whose name I know, and it says she is a novelist. I don't think I've read any of her work, but she says this. As a member of the American Civil Liberties Union, so am I, and an ardent progressive, I never thought that I would be writing anything like this letter. But she goes on to say that when she read that this surveillance system uncovered the plot by Najibullah Zazi, who was going to bomb the New York City subway system, and it did so, we were able to stop that attack through tracing his emails and thus thwarting what she says would have been a catastrophe, persuades me to shift my attitude toward the government's monitoring of phone calls and other communications. All I can do is picture the mayhem on the IRT, the subway, the panic, the many dead and wounded, the disruption of a major transit system. It's a terrible scene. So though it kills me to say so, I think the assault on privacy was probably worth it. And she's saying only in that one instance, all of this trolling going on, if it stopped that, a terrorist attack on the New York subway system, it's worth it. Now, I would agree it's worth it if, in fact, the encroachment on our privacy is as limited as our government says it is. And here again, we get back to, do you trust your government? First of all, I know my government is not at all interested in my emails. I know it's not. And that's not what this, anybody who thinks that is misunderstanding the sheer amount of data that the NSA is going through. A human can't do it. These are all programs, algorithms that have been set up looking for things that maybe connect, and then dropping those down, and then dropping those down further. There's no human who could do this. They don't have time to look at the pictures you took on vacation. It's of no interest at all. Unless, of course, you don't trust your government at all. And this letter from a gentleman in Washington State, the greatest achievement of terrorism is the extent to which it has made us distrust our own government. And another letter writer points out the obvious. For over a decade, we've put incredible pressure on our government to protect us from terror. And this is how it's done. How else do you think it would be done? I gave you the metaphor, that wonderful metaphor about a needle in a haystack the other day. That's what looking for these guys is. It's a search for a needle in a haystack. Well, you got to have a haystack to do that search. And the haystack is the gathering up of this information that appears to be connected and then further looking into it, tracing it. What would you have the government do? Okay, so should we not do any of this? And then we won't scream and yell when let's say, the subways in New York or Boston get bombed? Or we'll just accept that collateral damage for our sense of privacy. That could be the way the country would go, but I know it won't. Because I have said over and over again, this country seems to be made up of a lot of scaredy cats. And a lot of politicians in our government who make a point out of making us as scared constantly as they can. Okay, some quick comments from you, and then I'll get a break in here. I'm getting behind. Ansel writes, Lynn, it bothers me that Snowden did not use the avenues available to him in this country. Could have gone to the FBI or to the courts or to a supervisor or even over a supervisor's head. Why was it that he felt his only recourse was leaving the country and making his concerns public via social media in another country? To me, none of this smells right. Well, here again, it comes back to him, the person. And so many of the things he has said sound so narcissistic and so self-righteous and so grandiose, as only a young man can, a young person can sound. He is not fully matured, and maybe he never will. Chuck writes, if we take away the government's ability to tap into these data sources, then we tie their hands and take away the tools that they most certainly need to defend the country. We must give the country these tools. That's without question. And then we must give them our trust and expect them to use it in the right way. That's the part that people have a hard time swallowing, but swallow we must. I agree with you, Chuck. If we can't trust our government anymore, then I think it's time. People who literally do not trust our government anymore have gotten that cynical, are in that place. Then I ask them, well, so what do you do? It seems to me if you have no faith in your government that you become a revolutionary. Because I don't see what else you could do. And this effort on the part of so many to make us absolutely despise our government has been so corrosive to our country. Okay. Well, I'm not getting a lot of pushback from you guys, and I'm starting to. I know a poll came out that said most Americans are saying, you can do this trolling. I don't give a damn. Find the damn terrorists. Okay. All right. So the people on the right and on the left who are screaming the loudest about this find themselves in bed together. Oh, man. Glenn Beck and Glenn Greenwald are in bed together on this one. Just saying. I'm sorry. I just had a mental picture which stopped me in my tracks. Forgive me. Okay. Got to get a break in and we'll be right back.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. This week, great deals on tickets to the Pittsburgh Irish and Classical Theater. Supplies are limited. bergbargains.com. Pittsburgh's best bargains. bergbargains.com.
Chris, you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
Am too.
There's your comic book collection, the race car bed.
I'm young at heart, but I put money into my 401k every paycheck. I'm taking control over my financial life, and that feels pretty grown up to me.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Are those footy pajamas?
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Got a call? Okay, we got a call coming in. Let me get to it. Caller, hello. Hello.
Oh.
Hi.
Okay. George from Moan.
Hi, George.
Here's your pushback.
Oh, good. Okay, I've been wanting some pushback.
Yes, we're getting an echo here.
Uh-oh. I'm not hearing it. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'll try to talk over it.
Okay.
Okay, I disagree with you on everything. How's that for a start?
Okay.
And for our buddy in Gettysburg, I was in the Air Force, top secret security clearance in reconnaissance, and I don't brag about what I did or anything like that, but I talk about it, and all of this stuff is declassified. The Air Force shows every goddamn thing and then some that I ever know, and it's antiquated and worthy only of the history books on moldy shelves. Okay, so to your point, I agree that the right wing has overly done the mistrust of government. Absolutely, and it's despicable. But what you didn't talk about with this surveillance stuff is that common sense amendments were proposed both at the time of FISA and then the reauthorization, and they were all rejected. Now, that reminds me of the Iraq War, when the same thing was done, and yet everybody was hell-bent towards getting that enacted and giving full powers to the president without condition. And that's where I bring my concern to this, that we should, when we give these extraordinary powers to the government, they should come with time limits, restraints, and transparency. You don't have to give away the store to tell everybody how we're operating, but if you don't have those checks in there, then you're asking for abuse. And that's my second point, that sure as hell this FISA stuff is being abused.
In what way?
And I think that's somewhat that the whistleblower is talking about.
Well, how is it being abused?
If you let people with their finger to initiate anything, they sure as well. And let me give you an example. Since 9/11, here's a good example. Tom DeLay, back in, I think it was 2005, in attempting to herd in the Democrats in the Texas state legislature, used the Department of Homeland Security and the FAA to track down Democrats to coerce them into coming back to Austin to vote. And that was a violation, serious violation of Homeland Security. That's the kind of scary stuff that we should be concerned about. And that happened within the last 8 years. And so I'm saying, look at the violations of this and make sure there's transparency. Another example is, have we forgotten the Nixon administration and what they did? Now, couple that with the enormous powers that we're giving the intelligence community, which is huge and full of bundles of money, and then couple it with the mentality of a Tom DeLay or a Richard Nixon, and you've got potential. And if you don't put curbs on it, you're asking for serious problems.
Okay, but if we have a government like Nixon, who you shouldn't trust and who will abuse, I mean, that they engaged in criminal conduct. I mean,
yes.
Okay, but there is no criminal conduct alleged in any of this. This is all, as you said. I mean, this is under...
No, I'm saying it has the potential for it. When you have such a broad sweeping thing, and remember, when they talked about FISA in the original language and in the reenactment, they never gave details as to the checks and balances, and they rejected any good common sense ones that came from a number of people, including Barack Obama, and that's what makes me have some concern that if you don't have, I think the checks they have in place now are kind of phony, lightweight, and tissue thin. And you talk about a FISA court overseeing this, and you've got all this secretive stuff, and nobody really knows. The Senate Intelligence Committee as well as the House Committee are like stooges. They don't really know the details of what's going on.
All right.
And that's what should be scary to everybody.
Okay, but I think some do know detail. Some of the higher-ups definitely do. I have this feeling that Feinstein knows him. You can tell that she knows it. Mm-hmm. What do you make of the fact that Barack Obama, as a senator, as you said, was trying, and then he becomes the president, and he goes in.
Well, that happens all the time.
Well, it happens though because they learn more, and don't you think that's what it is?
Yeah, that ain't the only thing. They learn more. They get into the power structure, and then they get. I think they get coerced and cajoled by the establishment. The intelligence establishment, Lynn, is enormous and powerful and moneyed.
And you know what? It will grow and grow and grow because of the technology available. Because, I mean, war is going to be carried out through intelligence. Intelligence is everything now. You know,
of course.
Knowledge is power. Intelligence is power. Intelligence is all that matters now.
I'm not arguing.
Technological. You can't close it down any more than you can, stop
I'm not
the
saying
sun from
close it
coming
down. I'm saying get a beady eye on it. I'll use Reagan. Trust but verify. Trust but verify.
Okay,
That's
but here
a good
again,
system.
How do you verify when? In some instances, you say you're calling for transparency, but it's difficult if, in fact, what they are doing is trying to catch somebody, and you can't let the person know that you're after them. But you don't have to reveal operational stuff. Look, we do that with regular intelligence anyway.
There are means and mechanisms. We do it throughout the government. Look. Here's an example. Like in the Air Force, has at their disposal among young kids nuclear weapons. How are they able to control that and keep that secret as to the operational capability and control of those things in the hands of a bunch of kids?
Are you aware?
They can do it.
Okay, I just want to ask you this. Are you aware of anything that has become known because of this leak by Snowden that is surprising to you, or no? So what is all the hullabaloo? No.
No, I think there's real concern. I mean, anybody in the in the privacy community should be concerned about this and should be concerned about those rejection of those amendments to make this a little more transparent. We're not talking about taking down the complete veil and opening up the doors. We're talking about reasonable attempts to modify this and make it open to more people that would control it, but that it has real efficacy of checking it. The other thing is, tell us of your successes in this. You don't have to reveal operations, but tell us what the effect of all the power and money we've given you to do. Where is the efficacy of this program?
Well, I mean, we've been told some things. We do know about the...
Very, very, very little, and that's what scares me too, that here we go, the big fat butts of intelligence is like our military sometime. Instead of getting out there with human intelligence, they'd rather sit behind a console. It's much easier. You can build careers and money on it, and they're not doing the hard, grungy work of real intelligence. And then we get a 9/11. Look at that after spending billions.
But you know
So
what? These leaks, like the WikiLeaks and some of the other leaks that have happened that have gotten the Obama administration's shorts in a twist, have apparently compromised some of those people on the ground that you're talking about that we have. They compromised our people in Yemen. They compromised somebody in North Korea.
As did George Bush's White House with revealing Valerie Plame. It goes on in a lot of places, but that doesn't mean you don't put checks and balances in. And what you do is you fry anybody that misuses it. Absolutely.
Okay, do you fry Snowden?
I don't know. I don't know what he's revealed yet, to tell you the truth. And I don't know if there's any real damage. But I'll tell you what, I think his is a valiant call to pay attention to this and to bring some common sense modification to it to make it responsible.
Okay. Hey, thanks for the call.
That's my pushback.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I don't think, okay, thank you. And I really don't think there's all that much difference in the way you're looking at it, and I am looking at it. Two other little tidbits on this. Again, back to Brooks' little column here. Talking about Snowden, he betrayed the cause of open government. Every time there is a leak like this, think about this. The caller, George, is asking for more transparency. What David Brooks argues is that Snowden and his actions will probably result in less transparency. Because here is what he says, and I think he's right about this. Every time there is a leak like this, the powers that be close the circle of trust a little tighter. The reaction of this kind of action by the government, is to make fewer people aware of what's happening, to close the loop even more so. And that limits our ability to know. Think about that. Think about the unintended consequence. Or you could argue, if you thought it through a little more, if you weren't this 29-year-old utopian, narcissistic kid, that you would have thought, okay, and if I do this, they'll never hire another young person like me again. And they'll never let us anywhere near the stuff I was at and able to get a hold of. Okay, another caller. Go ahead.
How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Hey, Lynn, yes, if I trust the government? Hell no, I don't trust the government.
No, I know you don't.
No.
Okay.
But what I think, the government is so corrupt, we're only seeing what they want to tell us. I think they just scratch the surface. I think if you pull that curtain open, it'd be so damn corrupt, we'd shit our pants with how bad it is. And this is not Obama. This is way before Obama. It's corrupt inside and out. And that's how I believe. I love the country, but hate the government. But I still vote. But I think they're corrupt. That's my opinion. I don't give a shit if they do this phone shit. It don't bother me any. But listen to your calls. Who gives a shit? But, well, I got to get going. I think the FBI is at my door.
Bye. And again, back to Brooks. Snowden betrayed the Constitution of this country. The founders did not create the United States so that some solitary 29-year-old could make unilateral decisions about what should be exposed. He self-indulgently short-circuited the democratic structures of accountability. Okay, caller, go ahead.
Hey, Lynn, it's Mike in Philadelphia. How are you?
Fine.
I think I can guess that previous caller's favorite word.
You can what?
I can guess that previous caller's favorite word.
Oh, yeah, I can too.
Hey, did you happen to see the documentary on HBO last night about Pussy Riot?
You know, I saw a teeny bit of it, came in too late, and I was feeling so ill last night I couldn't watch it, I couldn't listen to him. No, I didn't see it.
Yeah, but it kind of puts things into perspective about how...
what, about repressive government?
There's a big difference.
Yeah, you got that right. You got that. Americans who scream, "Oh, our freedoms are under attack." Yeah, take a look at Russia.
Yeah,
which
you know, a lot of people, if you ask people on the streets, they would say, "Well, Russia's a free state, right? Russia's a free country." And what they did to these girls is just it's criminal. It's really criminal. I mean, I'm not totally for how they went about their protest, but I can't really I can't really condemn it either.
No,
they had something that they needed to express that they felt, and you know, it's not just against Putin, which, you know, I thought it was just against Putin, but they were standing against you know, for the feminist movement as well, which a lot of people didn't really take too kindly to as well over there, and I think it really put a lot of things into perspective. I followed that case for a while, and it's horrible what those girls have gone through.
Yeah, I know. I agree. Although, you know, one can see where there might have been consequences to what they did, but the consequences are just out of line, ridiculous. And what Russia under Putin is, I can think of it as it's a thug-ocracy. It's as awful a country as it's ever been. It is really whatever. Hey, I got to run. I am so late.
Okay, let's see you.
Bye. Tons of emails here. Quick, what do you call that? Break. And I'll be right back.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
The traditional light bulb, a groundbreaking invention in 1879. It's time we switch to longer-lasting Energy Star light bulbs. They're more efficient than the old bulbs, like a text message is more efficient than a carrier pigeon. And they cut down on our energy costs. Because in our own groundbreaking age, we deserve a light bulb that saves us some cash. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Hey, again, want to just remind you about the urban gardener. See, life is still, I mean, we can get away from this. Go tend thy garden. There are things in this world that, call us and take us away from these stressful realities of life as well. The urban gardener, over 300 species of every kind of thing you could possibly want to plant, from trees to shrubs to perennials to annuals, blah, 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 to herbs. They have garden art and accessories as well. And a lot of stuff they have that you aren't going to find anywhere else. It's wonderful. You know how some of these nursery things they're so huge you can get vertigo trying to figure out where to go, Urban Gardener is urban in that it is contained. And I just love this place. Check it out, 1901 Brighton Road on the north side. Go to their website. You'll get directions. You'll get everything you need to know. The website is urbangardenerpgh.com. And when you go and when you buy something, make sure you say my name when you're checking out, because you're going to get a discount. Lynn Cullen. There's money in it.
This week's Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for information on the Three Rivers Arts Festival, plus Tracy Morgan, Passion Pit, Drowning Pool, Shaka Khan, and News of the Weird. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout western Pennsylvania, and on the web at pghcitypaper.com, and on your smartphone with GPS-enabled listings at citypapermobile.com.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okay, I'm just going to try to get your emails in. From Ronald in Tampa, Florida. I understand the concern about the government spying on its citizens, but the stakes are too high not to. If the government's spying efforts will prevent another 9/11, isn't it worth it? Well, that's the question. Not a day goes by that someone somewhere in the world is planning on ways to perpetrate an event the magnitude of the events that took place on 9/11. If the government did not undertake this type of spying and another 9/11 event took place, we'd be, well, you're right about that, clamoring that the government wasn't doing enough. It's a different world than most of us grew up in. This new world requires us to take different actions that we once thought were illegal or improper. David writes, hang on. A caller just mentioned the leaks that compromised intelligence assets in Yemen and North Korea to the Valerie Plame affair. Note that in the first two cases, the administration is trying to find out who leaked the information, thus the AP scandal. In the Plame affair, it was the government itself, the administration, who did the leaking. Cheney's office. That's the difference in the Bush administration as opposed to the Obama administration. Good point. What a bunch of creeps. Donna writes, I do not trust my government. They hired this guy. Well, someone did. Clearly, they do not have the capability to keep their own business secret. How can I possibly trust they will keep my business secret? Well, come on. I mean, I don't know if you can extrapolate, Donna, from whoever hired this guy or Booz Allen presenting this guy to the... I agree, someone goofed when they let this guy in the door. But that's someone. That's not your government. Seems to me. And just so you know, the NSA is building a $2 billion facility in Utah, scheduled to be completed in September, that is 10 times the size of the United States Capitol building, 10 times the size of the U.S. Capitol building, and it will be used for one purpose only, and that is to store all the data that they are pulling in. Now, get some sense of this. I'm going to repeat this twice, because even reading it, I had to keep repeating it to myself. Estimates are that this NSA center will be able to hold 5 zetabytes of data. Now, what's a zettabyte? A zettabyte is the amount of data that would fill 250 billion DVDs. Now, I know, none of this is supposed to really... It's big. It's so big. Here's another way to figure it out. The total amount of all human knowledge created from the dawn of civilization to 2003. Now, we're cutting off at 2003 because there was an explosion at that point because of technology. But from cavemen to 2003... The estimate is that all human knowledge could be stored on 5 exabytes. What's an exabyte? Well, there are 1,024 of those in a zetabyte. And as I said, the thing they're building will hold how many? 5 zetabytes. Meanwhile, 5 zetabytes is 5 times 1,024 exabytes, and an exabyte, 5 exabytes. Are you following this?
I lost
Okay, but 5 exabytes, all of human data from the beginning of time to 2003. That's 5 exabytes. Would hold it. 1 zettabyte is 1,000 plus exabytes. 1,000 times all of the information from the dawn of human history to 2003 is like... And this facility will hold... you can't get your head around it. And they broke ground for another massive data center costing $500 million at Fort Meade, Maryland, which is where the NSA is headquartered. You think there's any stopping this? Seriously, guys. Come on. You think there's any stopping this? Wow. What a world. And it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder. Here's Ray. I don't know what Ray, for some reason what you wrote is way in a different place. Ray writes, That's not Ray. That's the Boilermaker Jazz Band. How'd I get that? Ray, well, I'm trying to get you. What happened to you? Oh, shit. I'm sorry. Excuse me. That was, I'm just generally, I hate this computer. It makes no sense. And Ray, you always are so coherent. I would love to get whatever it is you wrote, but I can't even find it now. It's like disappeared into thin air, into, I don't know, into the, excuse me. I just looked at my trash to see if you went there, and I came up with rectal bombs. Oh, Ray, I got you. The argument that the profound encroachment on our privacy is worth it if it thwarts a terrorist attack only holds water if we accept the premise that all of this cyber snooping is the only way to thwart such an attack. It may be sufficient, but may not be necessary. They should be smart enough to do it another way. And if they can't, they may not be too smart. They may be not smart enough to be in charge. But more to my objection. Once again, the real scary terrorists will be creative enough to avoid this detection. They only need to come up with a low-tech way of communicating. Just don't email your plans to blow up Chicago, and don't chat on Skype about them. So all they will catch are the stupid and lucky would-be terrorists. They will also have a database that has the potential of slowly morphing into what it was not intended to be, an avoidance of the warrant system. I think of the TSA that was put in place for safety. What they catch are small drug users and deadbeat dads. No plane ever came down over an ounce of pot or an overdue child payment. How long till we can access everything when we are involved in a divorce or lawsuit? How long till the IRS starts accessing this to check our finances? How long till employers can use this in employment decisions? How long till the government uses it to confirm political leanings? Please don't think this can't happen. All it takes are little changes over enough time. Hey, Ray, as I think give it up. That's my sense. If you're saying that we cannot allow our government to use the technology available now and they should go back to wiretaps and, boots on the ground or like people in the streets or blah, 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 fine and dandy. But everyone else, although bad countries, are going to be doing what we, the people, will not allow our government to do because of our sense of privacy. I wish the Founding Fathers could pop up right now and see what they think about all of this. This is a whole different world. Totally. Any presumption of privacy. Come on. And I will end with the prescient words of, at the time, my 5-year-old son. Mom, you're lucky. At least you won't have to live under robot overlords. Ain't that the truth? From the mouths of babes. Chris Potter tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.